Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, a free site, bettingangle.us, a free site. It's September 6, 2025. Um, I see a great bet on the board. Let's discuss it in the NFL. But first, remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Folks, you don't even have to be savvy. You just have to know that the futures market continues to run even after several games are played. Believe it or not, the futures market is going to run all the way into December. It's in September when you get remarkable deals. Now, the Chargers just played one of their biggest games of the year against one of their biggest adversaries, the three-time defending AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. Right? Just understand, the Chiefs were just in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs were 15-1 last year. 15-1. They're in the Chargers division. They're the top dog. They're the defending divisional champs in the Chargers division. Now, what's important here is to understand that the Chiefs today have one of the best defenses in the league. Take a moment to look at last year's stats. You'll realize that as great as future Hall of Famer Pat Mahomes is, the team now is really a defensive team. The defense is what carried them to 15-1. Right? The press is focused on Taylor Swift's boyfriend. The press is focused on, State Farm's Pat Mahomes. It's Chris Jones, that crew, them, the defense, that makes that team work these days. Right? Well, let me just say, against that defense, you saw Justin Herbert. Look at last year's stats. Look at the passing yardage. Look at the low number of interceptions. Don't let their playoff game, and understand the Chargers were a playoff team last year. Don't let their playoff game against the Houston Texans fool you. Herbert's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Right? Well, understand, facing one of the league's best defenses in Brazil yesterday, Herbert throws for multiple touchdowns. Herbert passes for more than 300 yards. So this morning, this Saturday morning, right, recognizing that the Chargers' next game is against a team with a new head coach, with a new quarterback, who finished below 500 last year, and who is widely projected to be the last place finisher in the AFC West, the Las Vegas Raiders. Right? With that recognition, just understand that this morning on Bovada.lv, you can get the Chargers right now at 25-1. Right? A team that made the playoffs last year, a team that has a head coach who got to a Super Bowl. You might recall Jim Harbaugh lost to his brother John Harbaugh in a Super Bowl where Jim's quarterback was Colin Kaepernick. Right? In other words, you have a head coach who won a NCAA championship at Michigan. Right? You have one of the league's best head coaches. You have one of the league's best quarterbacks. They are 1-0. We're going to go through their schedule and make the case that they likely are headed to a deep playoff run, especially since the worst they can do against Kansas City is 1-1 this year. Understand, Bovada LV after Game 1 is giving you the Chargers at 25-1. Folks, you're kidding yourself if you think you're going to get those odds in late October or in late November. It's not happening. Let's talk about the rest of their schedule. It's very important. Here's the theme. Here's why the team is so compelling. Because they have a schedule where they play their toughest opponents in the early part of their schedule at home. Right, folks? You and I know things evolve in the league. This team is going to get off to a start that's going to be huge. They're going to be in the catbird seat. Then they're going to start prioritizing this season. You saw the horses yesterday. Keenan Allen, he's back. Right? Ladd McConkey, he's still one of the best wide receivers in the league. And people don't know about him. Look up his numbers from 2024. Let's talk about the schedule. You know, I'm not a big believer in young quarterbacks. Even these superstar second-year quarterbacks. Right? Jaden Daniels, who made the Pro Bowl last year. Bo Nix, who, like Jaden Daniels, led his team to the playoffs last year. Drake May, who is one of the better athletes at the position. Right? New England's quarterback this year. I believe a lot of these guys are going to revert to the mean. I believe defensive coordinators in their first year didn't really know them. In the second year, that's when defensive coordinators understand, I've got to stop Denver. This team's defense by itself could lead the team to a playoff berth. I'm going to prioritize stopping Bo Nix. Just like I'm going to prioritize stopping Jaden Daniels, who made the NFC Championship game. Folks, week 3, when I expect the Chargers to be 2-0, they face Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos in Los Angeles. I think that game's winnable. The 4th game of the season, they play a team who was below 500 last year. My beloved New York Giants. Right? Understand, the Giants have a new quarterback this year. Understand, there's a big part of the Giant family who wants to see not Russell Wilson, but Jackson Dart as quarterback for the Giants. Right? The Giants, everyone's talking about the defensive line. No one's talking about the holes in the secondary. Folks, it's the holes in the secondary that'll finish you off against a quarterback like Justin Herbert. Understand, too, the Giants' cold weather team. Right? Northern New Jersey can get cold and windy. The beauty of the Chargers' schedule is that the Chargers play the Giants September 28th, when it's going to be warm, when it's going to be passer-friendly. Right? They will have dodged the cold weather bullet. The following week, they play the Commanders. Right? Folks, again, I expect Jaden Daniels to regress to the mean. More importantly, they play the Commanders not in Washington. No, they play the Commanders in LA. Right? Think it through. I think that's a winnable game. Understand, by then, there is a distinct possibility that the Chargers start the season 5-0. They'll get tested the following week, right? Understand, we're looking at travel patterns. They play the Giants East Coast. They come back home to play the Commanders West Coast. Then, of course, they go back east. Who's making up the schedule in the NFL office? They go back east to play the Dolphins in Miami. Now, I'll concede here openly. That's a tough game. That's a tough game. I think they might lose that game. But I want people to consider the fact that Mike McDaniel is on the hot seat. The fact that Tua is not quite getting along with Tyreek Hill. Right, folks, there's a possibility that the Dolphins implode by October 12th. More importantly, even if the Chargers go east and lose that game, they would be 5-1, if I'm right on the rest of the schedule. Let's talk about the next couple of games. And these are important because, again, the theme is that the Chargers early are playing the difficult opponents at home. Now, I view the Colts as underrated. Right? I'm a Giant fan. I actually believe that Daniel Jones is better than advertised. Right? I think the Colts improved just by getting off the Anthony Richardson experiment. Right? But importantly here, the Chargers play the Colts at home. Then, of course, you know I'm down on second-year quarterbacks. I'm especially down on first-year starters at quarterback. Folks, the Chargers then play the Vikings. I know the Vikings, excellent defense. I understand the Vikings, great record last year, regular season, made the playoffs. J.J. McCarthy is their quarterback. Look at the lack of experience for the quarterbacks the Chargers play early. They play the Vikings October 23rd in Los Angeles. More importantly, too, for those looking at schedule, because they play the Colts in LA the week before in Los Angeles, this is that second game at home. Right? This is the second game of the homestand for the Chargers. They're in an excellent position to do work against first-year starting quarterback J.J. McCarthy, especially if the team's self-image is one of a team that is 5-1, 6-1 at the time of the game. The following week, this is practically an off week. Right? How did they get this schedule? The following week, they go to Tennessee. They play the Tennessee Titans. Isn't their quarterback a rookie? Right? So, folks, just understand, all these young quarterbacks, all these home games against the tougher teams early in the season. Understand, early in the season is more important than later in the season. Because early in the season, every team has a shot at the playoffs. As the season unfolds, some teams are then going to believe that it's their year. You get to 5-1, 6-1, the playoffs are a foregone conclusion. You can then actually start pacing yourself. Right? That player with that iffy calf, Christian McCaffrey, you can say, hey, Christian, take 3 or 4 games off. We'll need you in late November and December. We jumped out the gate fast. I need you healthy for our playoff run. Micah Parsons, hey, that bulky back, hey, let's rest that back. We jumped out the gate fast. We need you late. Right? Well, just understand, folks. Just look at the age of the quarterbacks who the Chargers are facing early in the season. So then the Chargers have to play, after the Titans, the Steelers. Steelers made the playoffs last year. Right? The Steelers have a 4-time MVP as their starting quarterback. What I have been encouraging people to do is to look at his touchdown-interception ratio last year with the Jets of all teams. Compare it to the guy who won the MVP, Josh Allen. Right? You tell me how anyone can think that Aaron Rodgers is washed up. But here's the catch to the Steeler-Charger game. This follows the trend because that game's in Los Angeles. So after the Chargers play a first-year quarterback, they then get to travel home and have the Steelers come to them in Los Angeles. The next two games, the Chargers travel to Florida. Now, I'll concede, this team fascinates me. I think they're underrated. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is one of these guys who has upside, hasn't quite delivered. His career hasn't worked out. But the Jaguars lost a lot of close games last year. They have a new offensive setup, right? Chargers have to travel to play the Jaguars in Jacksonville November 16th. Folks, by then, I believe the Chargers will have such an outstanding record that they'll already be thinking playoffs. Understand, if they lose that Charger game, they get to come back home and play the Raiders in Los Angeles. Right? Again, change is not your best friend in the league. The Raiders, who finished below 500 last year, have a new head coach. Granted, it's Pete Carroll, who's won a Super Bowl, right? But he's new to the Raiders. And they have a new quarterback, Geno Smith. The following week, right, December 8th, they play the Eagles. Which Eagle team are they going to play? The one from last year that was dominant in the first half of that Super Bowl? Or the one from week 1? Look at Saquon Barkley's numbers. Folks, they are now focused on him. Right? He didn't do well against the Cowboys. Right? Cowboy defense, maybe it's underrated. Maybe. You couldn't say that about the Cowboy defense last year, could you? Let me let you in on a secret. 2,000 rushing yard running backs. The year after they got to 2,000, they regress. Right? Saquon Barkley would have a tremendous year this year if he got to 1,400 yards. Folks, that's a lot of offense off the table. It matters because Jalen Hurts, who had a great week 1, is not Justin Herbert in terms of throwing the ball around the field. If I pack the box to stop Saquon Barkley, doesn't that impact part of Jalen Hurts' game? Let me also say, too, that you see the problems. A.J. Brown, in my opinion, is one of the best receivers in the league. I couldn't even imagine how outsized his numbers would be if he were with Pat Mahomes. Look at his numbers from week 1 against the Cowboy defense. Right? How did the Cowboy defense stop not only Saquon Barkley, and when I say stop, I just mean contain. Right? It's not like Saquon was out there gaining 5 yards for the game, but he was contained. How did the Cowboys manage to contain both Saquon and A.J. Brown? Well, just understand, when the Eagles play the Chargers, folks, it'll be late in the season. Understand, the AFC West is playing the NFC East this year. Would it shock you to know that here again, the Chargers dodge cold weather? Because the Chargers play the Eagles not in Philly, in December. No, in LA. Right? So, folks, to sum this up, the Chargers are in the hunt, quite frankly, for the 1 seed in the AFC. I know we're all giving it to Buffalo. I understand the AFC East is certainly an easier division than the AFC West, which might be the toughest division in football, right? Understand, every head coach in the AFC West has made a Super Bowl, right? 3 of the 4 of them have won Super Bowls. The other guy played a very close Super Bowl, right? So, given the schedule, given the ebb and flow, given the fact that many of the Chargers' early games are against young quarterbacks or are against good teams at home in LA, given that the Chargers are already 1-0, have already beaten the big nemesis, the Chiefs, right? Given that when the Chargers play teams like the Texans, those games will be in Los Angeles. Right, folks? To me, based on what I saw yesterday, based on what I saw of Justin Herbert in college, Pac-12, based on the numbers from last year, again, look at Herbert's numbers, based on the fact that Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey are an underrated pair of wide receivers, given the fact that they just beat an excellent defense, one of the best defenses they're going to face, quite frankly, all year. Folks, the 25-1 on the Chargers here is a no-brainer to win it all. I'm not saying they do. But you'll have bigger problems in December than the problem you would have with a team that's 25-1 that you got in early September, that looks poised to make a deep run in the playoffs, right? They'll set it up where they won't have to play that first playoff game on the road as they did last year, right? This team is dangerous, 25-1. You're kidding me, right? I think that's a bet to take right now. You can this morning on bovada.lv or check your site. And of course, be adult about it. The risk is all yours. Check the legality of online betting in your jurisdiction. Those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.